bring in Mr. Independent on all this. Paul Rieckhoff is host of the Independent Americans podcast with me here in New York. I want to talk to you about your people, the independents or the undeclared, and maybe the difference between the two in a moment. But if you're Nikki Haley going into South Carolina and you didn't do well in the first two states, especially New Hampshire, if you didn't win New Hampshire, where are you going to win?
You're not. Brace for impact. I think she's going to get crushed in South Carolina because it's deeper red. It's more loyal to Trump. Yeah. New Hampshire, as we talked about last week, was her high point. I think she overperformed there because of independents, because many of them crossed over and decided to vote in the GOP primary, and they tended to go for Haley, who they view as a moderate alternative to Trump. I do think there's a bit of a warning there for Trump in the general election, because the general election is going to look more like New Hampshire than it does like South Carolina. And I think New Hampshire did reveal some of the weakness that Trump's going to face with independents nationwide.
Now, I wanted to talk to you specifically about independence and the term independence. So, we were talking, Chris Cuomo and I were talking on our coverage about this a little bit last night, about whether that's the right term for these voters. I mean, technically, for example, it's in New Hampshire, they're undeclared, right? But if you talk to those people, most of them vote the same way every time. They just don't want to necessarily be associated with a party. I wonder how many truly independent voters that will impact this race are out there. I mean, you say you're independent. I mean, how many people are like you, do you think?
I think that more than people calculate for. You know, they're unaffiliated. They're free agents. They're none of the above more than they're necessarily in the middle. And I think they're looking for a leader more than they are for a party. And they're about 60% of young people, 50% of veterans. More and more people are saying, you know what, I'm fed up with both parties. Right. And I want the parties to come to me. So I do think the face of independence is changing, but their power is growing. They're going to impact every election going forward, and especially this one coming up in 2024.
Do they care?
They're probably going to tip the few key swing states that are going to be in the difference.
Do they care? The reason I ask that is because it just doesn't seem like there's a lot, and we think about this, obviously, in the news business. You think about, are people engaged in this primary process? Are people watching? Are people in, do they want to see stories about this? And I don't know that they do. So do these independent voters you talk about, are they engaged? Do they care, or are they just so fed up they've given up?
No, they're highly engaged. I think it's a lot harder to be an independent than to just pick a side. They vote in high numbers. They're very patriotic, and I think they're very engaged. I think they're trying to push the system to be more normal, to be more moderate, to be more practical. And I think you see that independents are really, I think, the biggest rising force in America. That's why so many young people are saying, you know what, we want you to come to me. We're checking out of these parties. We're checking out of our grandparents' system, and we want something better. So I think they are what the future is going to look like.
Okay, let's talk about the race and what the race looks like. The Biden-Trump rematch looks like we're, as you said, looks like we're getting that unless something crazy happens, very surprising happens in South Carolina or somewhere else. We know Trump's support for the most part, and we know that it's enthusiastic. Whatever you think of the former president, he has support that's enthusiastic. What about the current president? It was interesting, last hour he picked up an endorsement from the UAW. Those are his people in politics. The union voters have supported Joe Biden for years and years, as long as he's been in politics. Does he still have the support of the voters? We know now he officially has the support of the leadership, but what about Joe Biden appealing to those blue-collar voters that have gotten him where he is?
He doesn't have the enthusiasm that he once had, that's for sure. I think
Can he get it back?
He's lost a lot of them. I think what's ultimately going to happen is Democrats are going to come back to Biden, Republicans are going to come back to Trump, and we're going to fight over those independents, and they're going to be key. And there's a person we're not talking about, RFK Jr., who could take a couple percentage points. There's people like Jill Stein out there who could take a couple percentage points, and that could ultimately be a spoiling factor as well. I think RFK Jr. might be the most underreported political story. A lot of people were talking about Dean Phillips. Almost nobody's talking about RFK Jr., who's going to be in this all the way. And
more from Trump, though?
And he could also get the Libertarian endorsement, which can play a bigger spoiler role down the stretch as well. It could mean money. It could mean ballot access. And he's one to watch in terms of who can actually impact that election.
Let me dig in real quick to these union voters. A fifth of the electorate last time around came from a union household. Biden won them by 16. He needs those voters. He needs them to support him next time around, not just the leadership.
I grew up in a union household. My dad was a union guy. My brother's in the union now. And I think, unions get stereotyped, too. They're not a monolith. Their leadership often endorses Democrats. But if you look at firefighters' union, cops' unions, electrical unions, they tend to be more diverse and more independent. So I think you might get the endorsement of the machine, but that doesn't mean you're getting the people. And those are the votes that they're going to have to fight for in places like Ohio and Pennsylvania especially.
All right, Paul, stick around. We'll be back to you here in a few minutes.